What is the creepiest missing person case you know about? The disappearance of Fred Valentich. He was a pilot who set off from a Melbourne airport on a training exercise over Bass Strait. He never arrived at King Island. What makes it creepy? That he radioed in that there was a strange craft following him, and the last piece of communication was a metallic scraping sound. Experts said that he was disorientated and was flying upside down and seeing the lights from his own craft on the water, but his Cessna he was flying could only fly upside down for a few seconds before stalling. They have never found him or his craft. The case of J.C. Lee Duguid has always fascinated and mortified me. 11-year-old girl kidnapped on her way to school in 1991. In 2009, she turns up alive. Turns out, married couple kidnapped her and kept her in a series of sheds in their backyard for 18 years as a sex slave. During this time the man impregnated her twice and she had 2 kids, 11 and 15, when the 3 of them were finally rescued. These kids had never seen the outside world and all they knew were what she was able to teach them with her own limited knowledge. Thankfully, she was reunited with her parents and last known to be focusing on raising her kids and generally staying as private as possible with her life. This might get buried, but my grandfather has been looking for his sister since 1956. Just left one day before she turned 18 and never made contact again. At one point he went to Idea Jane Doe. Doesn't speak much about that, but has continued to look, since so more than likely wasn't her. Got close a couple of times, but records are a little hard to verify at this point. One of the most chilling ones is Nathaniel Barjona. He was a convicted pedophile and suspected serial killer/cannibal. He frequently impersonated police officers and attempted to lure children away from their homes. He was eventually arrested, but a judge ruled that the state had failed to prove that Barjona posed a public threat, so he was released, despite having told psychiatrists that he had a fascination of cannibalism. Not long after his release, a 10-year-old boy was reported missing. Witnesses claimed that they had seen him in an alleyway, waiting for somebody. Another witness saw him being followed by an obese man matching Barjona's description, and the boy was distressed. The boy disappeared somewhere in that alleyway and was never seen again. When the police searched Barjona's apartment, they found a list of names. The list included the names of his previous victims, as well as the missing boy followed by died. They also found newspaper clippings regarding the case all over his apartment. A former flatmate of Barjona's reportedly found clothes in the apartment which matched the ones the missing boy was wearing on the day he went missing. A notebook was also discovered with coded writing. It took months for the police and FBI to crack the code, but eventually they managed it. Barjona had written in-depth descriptions of cannibalism, as well as cooking recipes involving the body parts of children. The recipe titles included Little Boy Pot Pie and Roasted Child. Despite weighing over 300 pounds and known to have a large appetite, police found that he had not made any significant food purchases for almost a month after the missing boy's disappearance. During this time, he frequently held barbecues for his neighbors, who mentioned frequently that the meat he was serving tasted strange. Police later found a meat grinder in his apartment, which contained human DNA. The police were never able to connect Barjona to the missing boy, and they never found the identity of the DNA from the meat grinder. Edit. Due to the amount of people who've expressed interest, I'm including some extra details/clarification. The authorities in Montana, where the kidnapping occurred, weren't aware of his previous convictions which took place in Massachusetts. He had divulged some of his crimes to his probation officer, so the probation officer made a request to have his records sent through, but the records were never actually sent. Cannibalism. He'd shown cannibalistic tendencies from the age of 6. Teachers would frequently call his mother to notify her that Barjona was upsetting staff and students by eating his scabs and sucking his own blood whilst in prison. Guards also observed this, as well as reporting that he appeared to be achieving sexual pleasure from it. Lack of grocery purchases. He had purchased small items of food, ingredients for baking, for instance, but no meat or substantial food. Early kidnappings/assaults. It's probably worth mentioning that Barjona began this attempted killing spree when he was 7 years old. He lured a 5-year-old girl into his basement, attempted to strangle her, but was stopped by the girl's mother when she heard the screams. When he was 13, he tried the same thing with a 6-year-old boy, sexually assaulting him. He tried it once again a few years later with 2 boys, intending to kill them, but the boys wouldn't follow him. His next documented assault and attempted murder occurred when he was 18 and was believed to be the first time he impersonated a law official in order to assault a child. The child was found in the car with Barjona, covered in blood and his own excrement, nearly dead. He impersonated law officials several times in his life and was eventually, at age 20, arrested and charged with attempted murder, receiving the maximum sentence, arrest and imprisonment. During his time in prison, he changed his name from David Paul Brown to Nathaniel Benjamin Levy Barjona so that he could understand what it was like to be subjected to antisemitism. He acknowledged this in an interview with Drive. Michael Stone for Most Evil. It was in this year that the judge ruled that the state had not provided enough evidence to prove that Barjona was still dangerous, leading to his release. Sitting on a young child, a month after his release from prison, aged 34 and already morbidly obese, Barjona saw a 7-year-old boy sitting in a car alone. He entered the car and sat on the boy until witnesses and the boy's mother saw what was happening and ran over, prompting Barjona to flee the car. A police officer recognized the witness description as Barjona and arrested him. Barjona first claimed that he had been attempting to get out of the rain, but later admitted that he had been trying to kill the boy. He was sentenced to probation. Zach Ramsey's disappearance. Police made the arrest when Barjona was found near a school, dressed as a law official and carrying a stun gun and pepper spray. Barjona was supposed to be tried for the murder and cannibalism of Zach Ramsey, but the child's mother would not cooperate with police, believing that her son was still alive. It is believed that Barjona may have first attempted to run the boy over in his car, as witnesses describe seeing a white car come close to hitting the boy. It was later confirmed that Barjona had access to his mother's car, which matched the description of the vehicle, at around the same time as the boy's disappearance. Barjona had been seen standing by a dumpster/skip wearing a police uniform, matching the pattern of police impersonation from his previous kidnappings. In the same alleyway, whilst conducting the investigations into Zach Ramsey's disappearance, the detectives also found the word Tita in Barjona's garage. This is assumed to have been a misspelling of Tita, the surname of another boy who had been kidnapped 13 years prior. Barjona would have been 16. The boy had later been found dead, having been strangled and sexually assaulted. Huge lists of names were found written down. It is suggested that this may have been a list of his victims. After all of this, Barjona was eventually arrested for impersonation of a law official. However, after detectives found pictures of children and a bone belonging to a boy, he was charged with kidnapping and sexual assault. He was also charged with torture. Many of his crimes occurred after the statute of limitations had expired. There's a famous Japanese case where a mother said she's going to meet an old classmate, left the house leaving an 18-month-old baby behind, and never came back. What was really creepy about it was when the husband was being interviewed on TV, there was a memo on the wall that said, "Don't believe in anything Yoko says." Yoko was the name of the missing lady's sister. My brother-in-law's uncle was driving to work and they found his truck with all his belongings, except clothes, still running on the side of the road. No sign of him. Just gone. Weird personal one for me. In my senior year of high school, 3 teenage girls from my area disappeared. All of the cases were unrelated and happened within a month of each other. 2 of them are as old now. First girl left a party and never made it home. It was discovered later that she was drunk and had driven off the road and into a lake. Second was a mentally disabled girl who vanished from her home. I think the parents probably killed her, but no one has been arrested or charged. She's still just missing. Third was a girl who never came home one night. Apparently she went to a trailer park to buy drugs, but the couple tied her up and kept her in a kennel for 2 months, raping her multiple times over that period of time. They eventually got caught cause they invited a friend over and offered to let him have a go. When he left, he called the police, who rescued her. All these disappearances happened in the matter of weeks though, and the local news was abuzz with theories. It was really disturbing at the time to have that stuff happening in my community. A girl in my grade, when I was in grade 6, was reportedly missing after having an argument with her mom in the parking lot of a grocery store. Security cameras were checked, and they found out the mother had lied about that. After several days we found out that the mom had strangled her with twine, pulled her pants off to make her look like she was raped, and threw her by a lake. Disturbing stuff. There were only about 30 people in my grade, so it was a close-knit community. Edit. It turns out it was because the mom's boyfriend at the time gave her an ultimatum. Great guy. Edit 2. Actually he may not have given the ultimatum, and to my understanding wasn't charged. Mom's evil though, and in prison for life. Edit 3. Also apparently the last words, "Mommy don't," will forever resonate in the mother's head while she's in jail for the rest of her life. This is such a twisted story. Oh, this girl who was working alone got dragged out of gas station, all seen on camera. The footage was so bad they couldn't figure out who it was, so they put out a message in the paper with his coat description. Someone eventually says their janitor always wears that coat. They go to the guy's house and search non-stop over and over again. They find a single burnt tooth in the backyard. It would have been inconclusive, but the girl had gone to a dentist conference and got a just on the market filling that only like 2 people in the world had. So they caught him. Edit. Holy moly, thanks for the upvotes. Just to add to the story, a girl caught a partial license plate as the guy drove past a park, but his car was registered under the wrong color, so they couldn't find the car. Oh yes, this was a Forensic Files episode, and the technology back in those days wasn't what is today. British South American Airlines flight CS-59 flying from Buenos Aires, Argentina to Santiago, Chile went missing in 1947. The last message STENDEC was sent via Morse code. The pilots were experienced World War II bomber pilots and the passengers was a varying group from around the globe and many walks of life, including business executives, a British diplomatic career, and various people from around the globe. The extensive aerial and land search of the route showed no signs of wreckage, a crash site, or anything. For decades many lines of theories were floated. Nazis, Argentine espionage, hijacking, and even aliens abduction. Then in 1998, hikers found aircraft wreckage at the base of a glacier on Mount Tupungato. The aircrew navigate using methods to calculate distance traveled by the airspeed and time, which is a crude but accurate method of navigation. To get above weather in the Andes Mountains they climbed to the pressurized aircraft ceiling. But in 1947 the existence of the jet streams was barely known and certainly not mapped, and part of the weather reports the pilots would have reviewed prior to takeoff. The plane entered and flew against the jet stream, throwing off navigation with the cloud cover of the time, and caused them to begin their slow descent too soon and into mountain glacier, and causing a avalanche to immediately after hiding the crash site. It took 50 years for the part of the glacier that held the crash site to flow down and begin melt enough to drop the remains of the aircraft, passengers, and crew. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.